Hi, this is Eric Johnson, Senior Technology Editor with the Journal of Commerce. So we've had some interesting additions to the liner shipping industry's lexicon in recent months, notably the addition of TradeLens, the Global Shipping Business Network, and the Digital Container Shipping Association. Most of the top 11 global ocean carriers have joined one or multiple of these new entities. And here before you we have a breakdown of which lines have signed up for which of these new organizations. Something to take note of, only 2 of the top carriers are members of all 3 of these new entities. That's CMA, CGM, and Hapag-Lloyd. Why is this interesting? We'll get to that in just a second. But first, I think it might be helpful to dive deeper into what each of these 3 organizations are. So TradeLens and Global Shipping Business Network, or GSBN, are essentially have similar ambitions. They both aspire to be blockchain-based platforms upon which the liner shipping industry, and that means shippers, carriers, forwarders, ports, customs authorities, terminal operators, can all digitize documentation as it relates to shipping and global trade. There's some other ambitions, including around providing greater visibility. And the GSBN, which was developed by CargoSmart in tandem with Oracle, has said that they're not confining themselves to just blockchain applications. TradeLens is based on the blockchain and has been developed by Maersk and IBM. Meanwhile, the DCSA is a different sort of animal. It's 9 of the top 11 carriers in the world have gotten together to try to agree on underlying data standards, and that's to help foster the development of more tools that are interoperable across the different carriers. I don't think it's a coincidence that most of the major carriers are now members of 2, if not all 3 of these organizations. So the diagram in front of you hopefully it will help understand a little bit where these organizations fit in. This diagram attempts to explain kind of the different layers of blockchain technology, starting with the consensus model, moving outward to protocols and applications. We're going to focus on the top half of this diagram. The bottom half is pretty weedy and not really relevant to most people who will be using applications that these organizations are developing. So if you think of, in terms of this diagram, you have TradeLens and the GSBN are at the very top, building a platform upon which applications would be built. The DCSA is sort of in that green space between protocols and applications, working on the data standards that would underlie those applications. So how does this all connect? Well, we've had tech experts tell us that data standards, while helpful, are not strictly necessary per se. What they will do is speed the adoption of technology and also speed the pace of development of solutions. If everyone agrees on a common standard, it's easier to bring to market a solution that touches a bigger size of the market. It could also, if carriers can agree on those data standards, it could theoretically enable carriers to develop their own products that would be interoperable across the industry. No shipper wants to use a single solution that only works for a single carrier. And this is why, back to the CMA, CGM, and Hapag-Lloyd examples, it's what makes their involvement in all 3 organizations really interesting, because we can start to see how some of these systems might be interoperable with one another and what role data standards play in that interoperability. Now, bigger picture, TradeLens and the GSBN are going to focus on building apps. They're going to focus on driving broader participation in their platforms so they can reach more of a critical mass. And the DCSA is going to plug away at developing those standards. The 2 blockchain platforms, however, you shouldn't think of them as being dependent on those standards, but you can think about the DCSA sort of adding rocket fuel to whatever those 2 platforms might eventually end up being able to do.